Have you ever felt that someone looks at you with deep affection, yet something always seems to hold them back? They care for you, they stay close, they support you, but there is one silent struggle neither of you can fully explain. It isn't always about beauty. It isn't always about attraction. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to love lies inside the unconscious mind, where old wounds, hidden fears, and forgotten experiences quietly shape how we see another person's appearance. Today we'll explore why someone can genuinely love you while secretly struggling to accept one aspect of how you look, and what this reveals about human psychology, emotional projection, and authentic connection. Most people believe they see another person exactly as they are. In reality, the human mind is constantly interpreting, comparing, and assigning meaning to what the eyes observe. This process happens so quickly that we rarely notice it. When someone truly loves you, they may still experience moments of hesitation that seem confusing, even to themselves. They might be drawn to your kindness, your honesty, your presence, and the peace they feel around you. Yet a particular aspect of your appearance may quietly stir emotions they cannot explain. They may assume the feeling comes from what they see, when in truth, it comes from what they have carried within for years. The unconscious mind stores countless memories from childhood, family relationships, friendships, heartbreaks, and moments of emotional pain. These experiences do not simply disappear because time has passed. Instead, they remain beneath awareness, influencing perception in subtle ways. A certain facial expression, a hairstyle, the shape of someone's eyes, the tone of a voice, or even the way a person carries themselves can awaken memories that have long been forgotten, consciously, but remain emotionally alive. The person experiencing this reaction often has no idea why they feel unsettled. They simply notice an unexplained discomfort and mistakenly connect it to your appearance, rather than to the unresolved emotions hidden within themselves. This is why love can feel both powerful and confusing. One part of the person recognizes your value and wants to move closer. Another part reacts to invisible emotional patterns created long before the two of you ever so met. These two forces exist together, creating inner conflict that may appear as uncertainty, hesitation, or emotional distance. It is not always a sign that love is absent. Sometimes it is evidence that love has encountered an old psychological wound that has never fully healed. Understanding this changes the way we interpret relationships. Instead of immediately believing that every uncomfortable reaction is proof of rejection, we begin to see that human perception is far more complex. The eyes do not simply collect information. They work together with memory, emotion, expectation, and past experience. Every person carries an invisible history that shapes how they respond to the world around them. This realization also offers an important lesson. Your worth is not determined by another person's unconscious struggles. You cannot heal someone's hidden memories by changing your appearance, nor should you feel responsible for emotional burdens that existed before your paths crossed. Genuine connection grows when both people become willing to look beyond automatic judgments and recognize the deeper forces influencing their perceptions. When awareness replaces unconscious reaction, love gains the opportunity to become more authentic, compassionate, and free from the invisible chains of the past. One of the most powerful psychological forces operating beneath conscious awareness is projection. It quietly shapes the way people interpret others without them realizing it. When someone truly loves you, they may still project old emotions onto you that have little to do with who you really are. A feature of your appearance may unexpectedly remind them of someone from their past. A parent, a former partner, a childhood friend, or even someone who caused them deep emotional pain. They are not consciously making this comparison. The unconscious mind simply recognizes a familiar pattern and responds before reason has a chance to intervene. This is why a person can genuinely enjoy your company, admire your character, and feel emotionally safe with you, while still experiencing moments of unexplained discomfort. They may notice themselves reacting to something as ordinary as your smile, your eyes, the way you dress, or the expression on your face during certain conversations. These reactions often seem irrational, because they are not rooted in the present moment. They are echoes of emotional experiences that were never fully understood or resolved. The unconscious mind does not distinguish clearly between what belongs to the past and what belongs to the present. Instead, it searches for familiar symbols and emotional patterns. When it finds one, it responds automatically. The person may believe they are reacting to you, when in reality they are responding to an emotional memory that your appearance has unknowingly awakened. This creates confusion because the conscious mind searches for logical explanations, while the true source of the discomfort remains hidden beneath awareness. This process can also influence attraction in surprising ways. Sometimes the qualities that draw someone closer are the very same qualities that make them feel vulnerable. They may fear becoming emotionally attached because your appearance or presence unconsciously reminds them of a relationship that once ended in disappointment or betrayal. As a result, they move toward you with affection and then suddenly pull away without fully Their behavior appears inconsistent, but beneath it lies an unresolved emotional conflict rather than a lack of genuine feeling. Recognizing the role of projection encourages greater compassion in relationships. It reminds us that not every emotional reaction reflects objective reality. People often see the world through the lens of their own experiences, carrying invisible stories that influence every interaction. Real emotional growth begins when these hidden projections become conscious. As awareness increases, the past gradually loses its grip, allowing a person to see you as you truly are, instead of through the shadow of memories they have unknowingly carried for years. Many people grow up believing that genuine love should remove every doubt, every fear, and every inner conflict. They imagine that if someone truly loves another person, acceptance will come naturally and without hesitation. Human psychology, however, tells a different story. Love does not erase the emotional patterns that have developed over a lifetime. Instead, it often brings those hidden patterns to the surface. The closer someone feels to you, the more likely they are to encounter parts of themselves they have never fully understood. This is why deep affection and inner conflict can exist side by side. A person may sincerely appreciate your kindness, respect your values, and feel emotionally connected whenever they are with you. They may imagine a future together and genuinely believe that you are someone special. Yet at unexpected moments, they find themselves questioning their feelings or becoming emotionally distant without any clear reason. This contradiction can be deeply confusing. They may even wonder why they are struggling when everything about the relationship appears healthy. The answer often lies beneath conscious awareness, where old emotional wounds continue to influence present experiences. When someone begins to care deeply, they also become more emotionally vulnerable. Vulnerability has a way of awakening fears that remained quiet when relationships were less meaningful. The fear of being hurt, abandoned, judged, or disappointed can emerge in subtle ways. Instead of recognizing these fears as their own, the mind may attach them to something visible, such as one aspect of your appearance. It becomes easier to believe that the discomfort comes from what they see, than to admit that it comes from unresolved emotions hidden within themselves. This inner conflict can create inconsistent behavior. One day, they seek closeness, warmth, and meaningful conversation. The next day, they appear withdrawn or uncertain. These shifts are not always signs that their love has weakened. More often, they reveal an internal struggle between the desire for connection and the child's instinct to protect themselves from emotional pain. Both forces are operating at the same time, pulling them in opposite directions. Understanding this complexity changes the way we interpret relationships. Love is not simply an emotion. It is also a process of confronting the unseen parts of ourselves. The relationships that matter most often become mirrors, reflecting hidden fears, unmet needs, and forgotten experiences. When a person gains the courage to recognize these inner conflicts, instead of blaming them on the other person, love becomes more honest and mature. It is no longer based on the illusion of perfection, but on the willingness to face oneself with humility awareness, and compassion. One of the most fascinating aspects of human psychology is that people often resist in others what they have never fully accepted within themselves. This resistance rarely appears in obvious ways. Instead, it quietly influences thoughts, emotions, and judgments without entering conscious awareness. A person may find themselves unusually focused on one detail of your appearance, believing that it is the source of their discomfort. Yet what they are truly confronting may not be your appearance at all. It may be a hidden part of their own personality that they have spent years avoiding. Every individual develops an inner image of who they believe they should be. Along the way, certain emotions, desires, insecurities, and personal qualities are pushed aside because they seem unacceptable or uncomfortable. These rejected parts do not disappear. They remain active beneath the surface, quietly influencing perception and behavior. When another person displays something that unconsciously reminds them of these hidden aspects, an unexpected emotional reaction can occur. The mind interprets the feeling as though it belongs to the other person, when in reality, it is pointing toward an unresolved conflict within. This explains why someone can genuinely love you while still feeling strangely unsettled by one feature of your appearance. That feature may symbolize something much deeper than a physical characteristic. It might represent confidence they never developed, vulnerability they have always feared, uniqueness they were taught to suppress, or even emotional freedom they have never allowed themselves to experience. Rather than recognizing these feelings as reflections of their own inner life, they mistakenly associate them with you. Such reactions are rarely intentional. The unconscious mind prefers familiar explanations over difficult self-examination. It is easier to believe that another person's appearance is creating discomfort than to admit that an old insecurity or hidden fear has been awakened. As long as this process remains unconscious, the person may continue struggling to understand why they feel conflicted, despite caring deeply about you. Real psychological growth begins when individuals become willing to question their automatic reactions instead of accepting them as objective truth. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with this person?" they begin asking, "Why does this affect me so deeply?" That simple shift opens the door to profound self-understanding. The qualities they once resisted often become opportunities for healing rather than sources of tension. When this inner work takes place, perception gradually changes. The feature that once seemed difficult to accept no longer carries the same emotional weight, because its true meaning has been understood. The person is no longer reacting to an unconscious reflection of themselves. They are finally able to see you more clearly, free from the distortions created by unresolved inner conflicts, allowing love to grow with greater honesty, acceptance, and emotional maturity. When people experience tension in a relationship, one of the first instincts is to believe that changing something on the outside will solve what feels difficult on the inside. A person may begin to think that if they looked different, dressed differently, lost weight, gained muscle, changed their hairstyle, or altered a particular feature, they would finally receive complete acceptance. This belief is understandable because the visible world often appears easier to change than is the invisible one. Yet lasting acceptance has never been created through outward perfection alone. The deepest barriers between two people usually exist within the mind, not on the surface of the body. Someone who truly loves you may believe that one aspect of your appearance is the source of their uncertainty. They may even convince themselves that if only that single detail were different, everything would feel effortless. But after one change comes another, and then another. The dissatisfaction rarely disappears because its true origin was never external. It was rooted in an emotional pattern that had been quietly shaping perception all along. Without recognizing this, the mind continues searching for flaws outside itself, while leaving the real issue untouched. This is why external perfection often fails to create inner peace. A person who has not confronted their own fears, insecurities, or unresolved experiences can carry those struggles into every relationship, regardless of how attractive or compatible their partner may be. The mind simply finds a new object for its discomfort. What once seemed like a problem with appearance becomes something else entirely, proving that the conflict was never truly about physical features. Real acceptance begins with self-awareness. When individuals become willing to explore the emotional roots of their reactions, they discover that many of their judgments were influenced by old beliefs, painful memories, unrealistic expectations, or unconscious fears. This realization is often uncomfortable because it requires taking responsibility for one's inner world instead of placing that responsibility on another person. Yet it is also deeply liberating. It allows love to develop on a foundation of truth rather than illusion. At the same time, this understanding offers an important message to the person who feels judged. Your value does not depend on satisfying every preference or removing every perceived imperfection. A relationship built upon constant self-modification can never provide lasting security because the goalposts will continue to move. Genuine connection grows when both people learn to see beyond appearances and appreciate the whole person standing before them. As inner healing takes place, perception naturally begins to shift. The feature that once attracted unnecessary attention gradually loses its emotional significance because the deeper conflict has been resolved. Acceptance no longer depends on achieving an impossible ideal. Instead, it emerges from a clearer mind, a more compassionate heart, and the courage to understand that authentic love flourishes when inner transformation takes precedence over outward perfection. Every meaningful relationship begins with a collection of expectations. Some are spoken openly, while many remain hidden beneath conscious awareness. People imagine what love should look like, how a partner should behave, and even how they should appear. These expectations are often shaped by family experiences, cultural messages, past relationships, and personal fantasies rather than by reality itself. In the beginning, these inner images can feel comforting because they create the illusion of certainty. However, as two people grow closer, those illusions are gradually challenged by the reality of another human being, someone who is beautifully imperfect, unique, and impossible to fit into an idealized image. When someone truly loves you but struggles with one aspect of your appearance, they are often standing at an emotional crossroads. One path leads toward holding tightly to an imagined standard, believing that happiness depends on finding someone who perfectly matches every expectation. The other path requires letting go of that illusion and embracing the person as they genuinely are. This choice is rarely easy because releasing old expectations means confronting fears, disappointments, and beliefs that may have been carried for many years. The human mind naturally resists uncertainty. It prefers familiar ideas over unfamiliar truths, even when those ideas create unnecessary suffering. This is why a person may remain focused on one physical detail, believing it explains their inner conflict. Yet the more honestly they examine themselves, the more they begin to recognize that their discomfort has little to do with appearance and much more to do with the stories they have been telling themselves. Those stories often originate long before the relationship ever began, shaped by experiences that silently influence their understanding of attraction, acceptance, and love. As awareness grows, something remarkable begins to happen. The feature that once seemed so important gradually loses its emotional power. It has not changed, but the meaning attached to it has. Instead of seeing it through the lens of fear, comparison, or unrealistic expectation, they begin to see it as simply one part of the person they deeply care about. What once appeared to be an obstacle becomes insignificant when compared with qualities such as kindness, loyalty, emotional safety, honesty, and genuine connection. This transformation marks the beginning of mature love. It is no longer based on fantasy or the pursuit of perfection, but on the willingness to see another person clearly, without demanding that they become someone else. In that space, both individuals are free to be authentic rather than performing for approval. They no longer seek validation through flawless appearances because they understand that lasting intimacy grows from emotional truth.